Not so long ago, in a place that's really not that far away, there was a wonderful desert utopia, dreamed up by the people with the most money and the most political leverage. It was a land of worship. It was a place of God. You could almost picture the children playing in the playgrounds. As the Israeli assault on Gaza began, it was quite evident that the IDF forces really took their jobs very seriously. And they must be such a professional crew because they always had time to stop and take pictures and pose, apparently while surrounded by Hamas terrorists. It became quite evident that the Israeli military was, well, quite a progressive unit. They sure were happy of their homosexuality. And the women, well, the Israeli women were so proud to be forced into the military. The IDF had a, shall we say, eccentric way of showing off their military endeavors or so-called victories. Different posts started to pop up from IDF soldiers on social media around the world celebrating different types of houses they'd leveled and bombs they had set off. And so Israel had sent with a very clear message for the Palestinian people of Gaza to move south or something. And so we packed up the kids in the car and decided it was time for a road trip. There was lots of work to be done in the neighborhood, so a bunch of the local communists, Hamas terrorists, got together and started digging through the rubble. I suppose they were looking for weapons or something. Israel started to get frustrated with the fact that the Hamas terrorists were still climbing out of their homemade tunnels. So they came up with a new plan: starve all the children. But wait, I know exactly what you're thinking. Starving children around the world? America to the rescue. Surely, the President of the United States has a plan to feed the children. Well, I'm sure democratically elected President Joe Biden and Seth Meyers are cracking some sort of amazing plan here. Perhaps cookie dough with sprinkles. A little further on up the road, Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is not having a very good day. His hair is a little bit out of place. Oh boy. Now here come those pain-in-the-butt protesters. What are they up to this time? And then the next thing you knew, of course, the protests were contagious. and they started to spread all around the world. But just like every American on TV, the message didn't seem to be very clear. What were they protesting about? Were they anti-Semitic? It was quite evident to every news person in America that both the nation of Israel, the religion of Judaism, and the political ideology of Zionism were all the same exact thing. And of course, after these ridiculous outbursts from everyone around the world, the only rational thing for Israel to do was kill more children. But who was responsible for this relentless onslaught of horrendous killing? Oh yeah, Joe Biden's best friend, Benjamin Netanyahu. But some crazy rumors about Mr. Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, were starting to float around, and everybody was seeming to come to the same opinion about him. And it wasn't a good one. But what about Joe Biden? Surely people would have his back, right? Oop, that doesn't look good. Or that. Or that. Or any of these really aren't very flattering. To be fair, President Biden did try to drop some humanitarian aid to the Gazan people. The problem was, it landed on their heads and killed them. But like a loyal friend would do, when your buddy is in a drunken, alcoholic, murderous rage, you would hand him more weapons. It almost makes no sense at all how an organization like Hamas could even exist in this world, especially when the entire population has almost been removed. And I know what you're thinking. Thank God for the First Amendment and the American journalistic integrity in our news media. But again, you'd be wrong. Surprisingly, we started finding out that the American news media was more interested in money and covering up crimes to sell their advertisement dollars. And the more we looked into it, we started finding out that our own journalistic anchors on major network television were actually paid Israeli spokespeople. And then, all of a sudden, almost like something out of a horror movie, you weren't allowed to be a Jewish filmmaker anymore. You had to be a Zionist. Like some form of Nazi fascist AI, the scripts were writing themselves now. Then, Israeli settler protests began happening at the border crossings. And I know what you're thinking. Great job, Israeli citizens, on trying to get the aid in to the Gazan children. But again, you'd be wrong. Then the party started. It was difficult to understand what the messages were saying because they were written in some strange language that no one understood. And whenever they were asked what the messaging was, they seemed to change the meaning. Then, After a long day of denying children's right to eat food, it was time for a rest. It had been a long, hard day's work. And I know what you're probably thinking. But how did Hamas come into power to begin with? Oh yeah, that's right. This guy again.